Hey guys, do you know anybody that you feel like would never change their ways or would never go vegan? I want to give you a little bit of encouragement because I've felt this way countless times. But I always go back to remembering that I personally never, if I would look at myself as the person that I was like 6 or 7 years ago, I would never imagine that I would be a vegan, that I would be out there promoting people to eat raw fruits and vegetables. And, the way that I live today is so dramatically different from the way that I used to live prior to getting into this lifestyle and prior to being educated, because that ultimately is what it came down to for me, was receiving the education and making the connection between the ethical, spiritual, environmental, and health aspects of eating a vegan or plant-based diet and lifestyle. So I thought back over my life and I thought, are there any hints or were there anything that, characteristics of me that would uh, make me think now that what I was doing back then was an indicator, or, something that would lead me to believe that I could possibly become a vegan later in life? What was I doing previously that was sort of a vegan mindset, but I just didn't have that connection to take it to the next step and actually act on what I truly felt inside. So, the first thing that I thought of was, I've always been a compassionate person. I've always been somebody that has wanted to help others, and that includes animals and people. And when I can do that, it makes me feel good. So it's a benefit for me and for the other person. So when it comes to teaching somebody about a vegan lifestyle and plant-based diets, that's like the ultimate win, because I am not only helping somebody improve their health, I'm also helping, to save additional lives of animals. I'm also helping to promote better care of our environment and less funding to harmful industries and big corporations that don't necessarily care about the well-being of us, the animals, or the environment. They basically just want to make sure that they have a continual flow of income for them and their shareholders. So, you know, the aspect of helping others, when it comes to promoting veganism, you're really hitting every aspect that you could ever want to hit, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, again, the environment, you know, animals' lives. It all is touched. So that is one thing that, I really enjoyed doing in the past, but I didn't know exactly how to do it until I got into this way of life and I started to see the benefits in myself, and then I was able to connect with other people and better communicate a way that they could do this as well. So that's my first thing, was just my level of compassion and empathy and just the desire to help others. Second thing, so I grew up working at a grocery store, and so first I was just a checker, I worked at the cash register, and later on I got into the meat department. So I was in the meat and seafood department, and so as I would be preparing the different types of meats, I would think about, I remember thinking back and just connecting. I did have that connection where I would think that that piece of meat used to be an animal that was walking around in a field, or, probably in a factory farm. So it wasn't really walking around in a field. But, in my mind, I mean, I didn't even really understand what a factory farm was at that point. But I assumed that it was just an animal that had been walking around, out in nature. And, so I did have that slight connection, knowing that it wasn't just a slab of flesh, it actually came from an animal. But, in some weird way, I still didn't really connect that the animal had to die unnecessarily to be on my table there to prepare. So, it's really strange. The brainwashing runs so deep that you may understand that it is an animal, it came from an animal, but there's just this level of education that, there's a gap there that doesn't allow you to really understand that it came from an animal that has emotions, it has sentience, it has consciousness, just like we do. It avoids pain, it avoids suffering, and it seeks pleasure and happiness. And so we have so many more similarities than we do differences with animals. And people have been tricked into thinking that animals and humans are just these completely two different things, but they're really very similar. And I mean, even if you want to take it a step lower and just think of our family pets or companion animals, they are, there is no difference between the animals that we care for and love in our homes and the animals that are out in nature, or in this case in factories or on, livestock farms, things like that. They are completely, in the sense of consciousness and just their desire to live and be free and to just love their family and be with their, other, their friends, or just their other animals that are with them in their herds or in their flocks or whatever. They're all just like our family cats and dogs, and really they're just like us as well. So that was one thing, I had that connection where I was like, wow, this is an animal, but I just didn't really understand the severity of how the whole process worked. And I was still believing at that point that we needed to consume animals to be healthy. And that, when I found that out, that really shifted my thinking and wondering, why are we doing this? Why are we killing these animals if we don't need to, especially when they can feel, they love, they have fear, they have happiness and joy, just like we do. And so that is really what got my mind, fixated on this. And seeing the movie Earthlings was the, that is what really did it for me. I could not go back after seeing Earthlings. So yeah, that's just another way that I look back now, and I can tell, it's not that far of a stretch that I became a vegan, but at the same time, the way that I lived back then was just so different than I do now, and I probably could not have imagined back then that I would be how I am now 6 or 7 years later. So the other thing that I thought of was that when my friends or people in my family, like my dad, would go hunting, I think I went with him maybe once or twice that I can remember, but I never wanted to, or I never had a desire to go hunting, because that was another thing that I thought of when I would hear of my friends or family going hunting, is that, I would think after they shot the deer or the pheasant or whatever it was, the duck or the goose, I would think, or I would wonder what that animal would be doing had it not been shot. I would just picture it out, just being happy, living its life, doing its thing. but then it would make me kind of sad because it wasn't doing those things anymore, because it had now been shot and killed and it was no longer with its family. That was another thing that I would think about, is that, you know, what if it had a family? What, like a raccoon? I would see a raccoon on the side of the road too, and I would think, you know, that had been hit by a car. I would think that maybe it was out, you know, getting food for its family, or, you know, if an animal was hunted, then what if it was out getting food for its family and it never came back? So again, I had that connection where there was family structure within these species, and that they, you know, had purpose for their family or with their community, and that we took them away from that by hunting them. And so I never understood the desire to hunt. I never could understand the desire to take the life of an animal. It just never resonated with me. And even though I didn't still have that real ethical connection, the vegan sense of it, I still had that where I just didn't understand why somebody would want to kill an animal just for fun. You know, even a lot of times people wouldn't even eat them. They would just go hunt, and they didn't really need to. So that was something that really bothered me. I never really, you know, confronted anybody about it, but that is, you know, just something that I remember thinking back when I was younger. So, and even today, I think that the same way. Yeah, so those are, you know, 3 or 4 things that I think back to in terms of just hints, little subtle characteristics that I had growing up, where I can understand how I became vegan, because I had all of those, you know, those moral and ethical characteristics, but I was just in the system, the brainwashing, the indoctrination of the herding culture, and just the necessity to kill animals for us to be healthy and for us to survive. So again, it comes back to the education, and that is why educating people about these topics is so important, because most of us are empathetic and just loving souls, loving creatures, and we would not be able to kill an animal ourselves, yet we are willing to go pay for somebody else to do it because we don't have that education. And so that's why I want to make this video, to give you a little hope if you have people in your life that might seem like they, you know, just would never go vegan, but you do recognize that they're good people underneath. And, you know, it just takes that one thing for people to really make the connection. And I just want you guys to, you know, don't give up, and keep doing what you can to spread the message and to keep making people think about these issues. You don't have to be obnoxious or, you know, confrontational. You just have to present this information repeatedly so that people have to keep thinking about it, and pretty soon they will start to make that connection. So that's what happened with me, and I know that's happened with a lot of other people in my life, so it will happen with the people in your life as well. Some people just take longer. Some people, unfortunately, never get there, but it's all right. Don't worry about it. Just keep spreading the message. Keep, you know, being true to how you feel and true to yourself, and don't be afraid to share what you believe is truth and what is the most ethical and compassionate way to live. All right, so that's my quick video for you. I just wanted you to kind of get a little inspiration to not give up if people are discouraging you with their negativity or, you know, backlash towards your vegan lifestyle. Things can change, and they usually do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Remember, I've got that vegan children's book on my website, myrawintuition.com. If you're interested in getting children started early on a vegan sort of education, I highly recommend my children's book, Vegan Adventures with Barnyard Friends. Find it on my website, linked in the description box. Yeah, and so I'll see you in the next video, guys. Always remember to follow your raw intuition.
Detoxify your mind and body. Be the change you want to see. Small steps towards living better. Small steps to where I want to be.